what if the secret to enlightenment isn't starving your desires, but completely and unabashedly surrendering to them?
I mean, that sounds totally backwards to most people, right?
Right, because when you picture reaching a state of Buddhahood or, ultimate spiritual transcendence, there is a very standard, almost universally accepted image that comes to mind for most of us.
Yeah, the ascetic monk.
Exactly. You picture a monk sitting quietly on a mountain, fasting, completely removed from the physical world, just aggressively trying to ignore every single human impulse.
Well, it's the classic deprivation model of spirituality. The underlying assumption there is that the physical world is essentially a trap.
Like a prison for the soul, almost.
Right. And the idea is that you have to actively starve your human desires until, only the pure, untouched divine remains.
It sets up this eternal war of flesh versus spirit. But today, we are pulling apart a translated philosophical text by Suifeng. It's titled 36 Bagua Arrays, the Array of Nature.
It's a fascinating read.
It really is. And our mission on this deep dive is to explore an entirely different roadmap to enlightenment. Because this text has a highly structured, almost architectural view of existence.
Very much so.
And it basically argues that the ascetic monk shivering on the mountain isn't just taking the hard way, but he might actually be walking in the completely wrong direction.
Yeah, Suifeng completely flips the script on how we are supposed to interact with our own desires. Instead of running from them, he proposes a mechanism of transcendence that requires passing straight through them.
Which is such a wild, counterintuitive premise.
Yeah.
But before we get to that sharp turn, we really have to build the universe the way he builds it.
Right, you need the foundation first.
Exactly.
Sure.
So the text starts with this grounding metaphor. It says humans live in nature just as fish live in water. We originate from it, we live in it, and we return to it.
It's very poetic.
It is.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like a lovely piece of standard nature poetry at first glance. But Suifeng is actually laying down an unbreakable law of physics for his universe.
Yeah, that metaphor is the baseline equation for absolutely everything that follows. Nature is the Buddha. Living in nature is living in the Buddha.
Oh, I see.
Therefore, to become a Buddha, one must live fully in nature. He establishes right away that while humans have the capacity to transcend many trivial things in this life, we can never, ever transcend nature itself.
Because we are it.
Exactly. We are bound to it just as inextricably as that fish is bound to the water. I mean, a fish cannot transcend the ocean without ceasing to be a fish.
So if we are essentially trapped in this water, we really need to understand what this text actually means when it uses the word nature. Because reading through the source material, it becomes very clear that Suifeng isn't talking about, trees and rivers and hiking trails.
No, not at all.
Nature, in this context, is a cosmic architecture. It's a rigid set of boundaries.
Right, and the text states a fundamental rule to explain those boundaries. It says structure determines the nature of things.
Okay, structure determines the nature.
Right, meaning everything in existence has a specific nature based entirely on its underlying structure. The essence of a thing is dictated by how it's built. And how that thing actually manifests, how you experience it, that is its nature.
To put it in the text terms, mountains have mountain-like qualities. Water has water-like qualities.
Right.
Flowers have flower-like qualities. And medicines have medicinal qualities. And this logic, it scales all the way up the cosmic ladder, right?
It does. Animals have animal-like qualities. Humans have human-like qualities.
Even the divine stuff, like Buddhas have Buddha-like qualities and gods have divine qualities.
Exactly. And because everything possesses its own specific structural nature, everything exists within a strictly limited environment defined by that nature.
It has a lane, basically.
Yes, it has to stay in its lane. A mountain cannot suddenly decide to behave like water. A human cannot behave like a flower. We are all bound by the parameters of our structure.
That makes sense.
And this specific assignment of qualities and limits creates what the text calls the nature array. It's what makes the world splendid, predictable, and orderly, rather than just a chaotic soup of raw existence.
You know that concept of the nature array? It makes me think of a massive video game engine.
Oh, yeah, that's a great analogy.
Right. The underlying code, the structure, dictates the physics and the rules for absolutely every object in the game. If you code a non-playable character to never walk through walls, they physically cannot do it.
The game engine literally enforces that limitation.
Exactly. Whether it's a mountain in the background or the main player character, they all have to operate within the specific parameters of their code. And here is where I want to drop a hint for you listening.
Uh-oh, spoiler alert.
Yeah, a bit of a spoiler. That cosmic code also includes our deepest, most primal desires. They aren't bugs in the system. They are features of the engine.
That's a crucial point.
But before we get to the desires, how does the text organize all this cosmic code? I mean, if every single thing has its own specific parameter, how does the author organize all this diversity without it just being an overwhelming mess for the reader?
Well, the author brings order to the chaos by sorting reality into a very rigid three-tier framework. To understand how the nature array functions, you basically have to understand the descent of nature from the absolute highest level down to the mud we walk in.
Okay, what are the tiers?
The text categorizes these as innate nature, bestowed nature, and acquired nature.
Okay, let's start at the source code. Tier 1, innate nature.
So innate nature is the universal tier. The text defines this as being given by the creator. It's the essential raw attribute of things, and it belongs wholly to them.
So it's like the ultimate common denominator.
Exactly. It's the commonality shared by all things within a broad category before any specific details are added at all. Philosophically, the text describes innate nature as a state of emptiness and elegance without form. It calls this the nature of Tao.
I think using the examples from the text makes this much easier to visualize. Like, all the water in the entire world shares the common innate nature of water.
Right.
All flowers, regardless of what color they are or where they grow, they share the innate nature of flowers. And all humans, regardless of who they are, share the common formless characteristics of humanity.
It's just the raw idea of a thing before it takes a specific shape.
Got it. But pure existence isn't just a formless idea, right? Reality requires definition.
Exactly. Which brings us to tier 2, bestowed nature, which the text also refers to as inherent nature. If innate nature is the universal concept, bestowed nature is the categorical division.
Okay.
This is where the universe starts sorting that formless void into specific buckets.
Right. But how exactly does a formless void become a specific bucket?
Through differentiation. Bestowed nature consists of the characteristics assigned to various types of things to differentiate them from one another. It belongs to their respective categories.
So we're splitting things up.
Yeah. Unlike the perfect emptiness of innate nature, bestowed nature is a state of active division. And the text actually associates this differentiation with Tai Chi.
Okay, wait, Tai Chi.
Yeah, but when the text mentions Tai Chi here, it's not talking about like the slow martial arts movements you see people doing in a park.
Right.
It's talking about the mechanical engine of the universe. The moment a single formless energy splits into opposing forces to create physical reality. The text calls this categorized state the nature of virtue.
The text examples really ground this transition from the universal to the categorical. So we started with the formless innate nature of all water. But in tier 2, the universe runs it through that Tai Chi prism, and that water becomes differentiated.
Exactly.
It becomes seawater, river water, spring water, or rainwater. The core essence is still water, but the category has been bestowed upon it.
And the author gives a beautifully detailed botanical example to reinforce this too.
Oh, right, the flowers.
Yeah. All flowers share a commonality, their innate nature, but then they are categorized into different botanical families by the universe. The text specifically lists the Asteraceae, which is the daisy family,
Okay.
the Liliaceae, the lily family, Orchidaceae, the orchid family, Cactaceae, the cactus family, and Ericaceae, the arum family, being part of the lily family as opposed to the cactus family. That is the flower's bestowed nature. It's a categorical imperative. It simply cannot change.
And when it comes to humans, the text actually uses race to illustrate this bestowed nature. It specifically notes yellow, white, and black races as examples of these bestowed categorical traits.
Yes, it does.
And it's really important for you to know, as we map this out, we are just looking at the blueprints Zhuo Yifeng drew up here. We aren't endorsing his specific social or racial categorizations at all, but to truly grasp this philosophy, we have to look impartially at how he files the universe away into these distinct, unchangeable soldiers.
That's a great point. And recognizing how he categorizes groups is crucial for understanding his ultimate goal, which is basically showing how the pure, empty nature of Tao becomes increasingly heavy and fragmented as it descends into reality.
Which brings us to the final tier, Tier 3, acquired nature.
Right. We have moved from the universal to the categorical, and now we arrive at the highly specific individual tier.
This is where things get personal.
Very personal. Acquired nature is defined as the habits formed by individual things through the influence of their specific environment and, their daily survival needs. It belongs purely to the individual entities themselves.
So that's how we adapt.
Exactly. The text calls this a habitual state of adaptation to the environment, or the nature of reason.
Following our water example to its final destination, we had water in general. Then we had categorical water, like river water. Now, at the acquired level, the text says water becomes salt water, tea water, medicinal water, or even human tears.
Oh, wow.
Right, based entirely on its specific individual use and environment.
And looking back at the flowers, we move from the broad daisy family down to the individual acquired varieties fighting for sunlight in a specific garden. The text lists the chrysanthemum, the golden daisy, the black daisy, and the pink mini daisy.
Pink mini daisy, right.
Each individual plant has its own unique individuality, its own acquired nature shaped by its conditions.
For humans, this third tier represents our individual personality.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
The text makes a massive, deeply controversial claim here about human morality. It states that benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and trust are all mere results of acquired nature.
It really demotes them.
Wait, I have to push back on this.
Yeah.
Because in almost every major philosophical or religious tradition, things like benevolence, charity, and wisdom are considered the absolute highest ideals of humanity.
Right. They're the ultimate goal for most people.
They are supposed to be the divine spark. But Fufeng treats them like they're just environmental adaptations. He puts the highest moral virtues on the exact same cosmic level as a pink mini daisy or a cup of tea water.
I know, it is a stunning demotion of human morality. But if we connect this to the bigger picture of the text's framework, you see exactly why he does this.
Okay, why?
Remember the starting point. The highest, purest state is the innate nature, the nature of Tao, which is described as completely empty, elegant, and formless.
Right.
Well, human reasoning, moral constructs, and social contracts like propriety and trust, those are highly complex, formulated rules. They are habitual adaptations developed so we can basically live in a crowded society without destroying each other.
Oh, I see.
They are pragmatic survival mechanisms, not divine traits.
So by that logic, being a deeply moral, righteous person actually means you are covered in artificial layers. You are as far away from emptiness as you can possibly get.
Exactly. In this philosophy, human reasoning and moral virtues are the furthest away from our original divine essence. They represent the dense, heavy outer shell of our existence.
This raises a huge question for anyone reading this text and trying to figure out how to actually achieve enlightenment. If our profound human virtues and our individual personalities are just acquired adaptations, how does a person listening to this deep dive actually achieve Buddhahood?
Well, according to the text, they have to, quote, escape the nature array.
But wait, the text immediately acknowledges a massive paradox with that instruction.
Yes, it points out that, in terms of essential attributes, humans cannot escape the nature array because humans themselves are nature.
We established at the very beginning that we cannot transcend nature. The fish cannot leave the water.
Right. So how do you escape a structure you are intrinsically made of?
You have to play the tape in reverse. The text outlines a specific method of reversal. To escape means you have to deliberately walk backward through the three tiers we just mapped out.
Step 1.
Right. First, you have to overcome your acquired habits. The text explicitly says you must surpass the rationality of benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and trust.
You have to actively let go of the environmental adaptations and moral codes that make you a functioning individual in human society. Once you dissolve those structures, you reach the second step.
Discarding bestowed characteristics.
Right. You have to abandon the nature of virtue, that state of Tai Chi differentiation that separates you into a biological category.
Only then, after shedding the individual and the categorical, can you reach the third step, which is restoring your innate nature and returning to the empty, formless nature of Tao.
Exactly.
It's like taking off layers of winter clothing, but with a massive catch. Like you aren't just taking off the heavy parka of your personality and the thick sweater of your morality.
You have to keep stripping it down.
Yeah, you have to keep stripping until you dissolve the concept of being cold altogether. You are unlayering yourself to return to the void.
Unlayering the acquired traits is conceptually straightforward, I think. We can imagine changing our habits or letting go of our societal rules, but this is where the text introduces its most profound and, frankly, its most provocative instruction.
Here we go.
Stripping off an acquired personality is one thing, but how do we shed our bestowed traits? Specifically, how do we shed the profound, physically ingrained bestowed trait of being divided into two biological sexes?
The text says that when discussing nature, we absolutely has to talk about the nature of the two sexes and the nature of sexual love. You just can't ignore it.
According to Sui Feng's framework, the nature of sexual love is not innate, because the innate void has no form or desire.
Right.
And it is not acquired because it isn't a habit picked up from the environment, it is a bestowed nature.
So it's cure too.
Exactly. Humans are divided into male and female, yin and yang, entirely due to the principles of Tai Chi that split the universe into opposing forces. The text quotes, "All things carry yin yet embrace yang," attributing this deep primal division to the bestowed categorical tier of existence.
Okay, so normally this is the part in the ancient text where the author says, therefore, because sex is a physical earthly division keeping you from the void, you must abstain from all earthly desires.
Take a vow of celibacy.
Right, take a vow of celibacy and starve the impulse to return to the divine. That is the ascetic monk on the mountain. But that is not what Shu Feng says here. Not even close.
Not at all. The text offers a radical, almost paradoxical mechanism for transcending this bestowed nature. It states that from the perspective of cultivation, to reach Buddhahood or the state of a super-celestial being, one must transcend sexual love and achieve self-harmony.
Right.
But remember the primary rule. The path to returning to the innate nature of Tao is still nature.
You have to use the engine.
Yes. You
Right.
cannot bypass the rules of the video game engine to beat the game. You have to use them.
The text literally says only through sex can one return to nature. It argues that you don't defeat the physical division of yin and yang by ignoring it. You defeat it by balancing it, by completely saturating it.
Think of it like holding your breath. If you try to aggressively ignore your biological need for oxygen, it's all you can think about.
Right, you just panic.
Your body panics, your mind fixates, and you are entirely trapped by the desire for air. But if you breathe deeply and completely saturate your lungs with oxygen, the desire vanishes.
You don't even think about breathing anymore.
Exactly, you reach a state of equilibrium. So Feng is applying that exact biological mechanism to spiritual intimacy.
So if you try the ascetic route, if you try to hold your breath and starve the desire,
Then you fail. The text explicitly warns that if yin or yang is lacking, there will be imbalance and deficiency in your system. This deficiency creates a constant nagging pull that keeps you trapped in the bestowed tier.
it anchors you.
Right. That unfulfilled desire makes it incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to return to the formless sea of nature. When yin and yang achieve complete balance and saturation through sexual connection, they effectively neutralize the deficiency that causes the desire in the first place.
It all builds to this incredible final rule in the text, which Feng states with absolute clarity. He says, do not avoid sex. The more you avoid sex, the further you move away from innate nature, the nature of Tao Buddhahood.
It completely dismantles traditional asceticism.
It really does. Instead of starving a desire to overcome it, the text suggests you must fully feed it. Only when a desire is completely fulfilled does it neutralize, allowing the mind and spirit to return to emptiness.
What's fascinating here is that it is a profound psychological insight dressed in cosmic architecture. It suggests that resistance creates persistence.
Oh, I like that. Resistance creates persistence.
Yeah, by avoiding our fundamental bestowed nature, we obsess over it. We grant it power over us, keeping us tethered to the physical realm. By embracing and saturating it, we fulfill the structural requirement of the nature array. We beat the game's code by playing exactly by its rules, allowing us to pass through the physical world back to the void.
So what does this all mean for you listening? We started this deep dive with the simple idea of living in nature like a fish in water. We mapped out this massive, deep architecture of the universe, starting from the formless innate energy, watching it split into the categorical structures of flowers and human divisions, all the way down to our individual tiers and the tea water we drink.
It's a huge journey.
It is, and we ended with a startling roadmap to enlightenment that demands we go straight through our physical sexual natures rather than running away from them.
It's a sweeping journey from the universal to the specific, and then a precise roadmap of how to climb back out again. But it leaves us with a truly challenging implication about human connection.
What's that?
Well, if we follow this text's logic to its ultimate conclusion, we must balance and saturate yin and yang through intimate connections solely to neutralize our physical drives and return to the nature of Tao.
Right.
But what happens to our modern understanding of romance and love if we view human intimacy not as a beautiful endpoint to be cherished, but purely as a functional cosmic vehicle designed to erase our individuality so we can return to a state of complete emptiness?
Wow. That is a heavy, beautiful thought to leave you with. If the ultimate goal is the formless void, then even our deepest, most passionate connections are just biological stepping stones back to emptiness. Keep questioning, keep exploring the nature of your own world, and maybe ask yourself if you're swimming with the current of your nature or fighting the water you're living in.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.